in the United States, they're still continuing their election campaign, and it's, well, you've been watching, you've been listening, you know what's going on. The situation in Chicago on Friday night, the Trump rally canceled because of chaos and violence. And yesterday in Dayton, Ohio, a 22-year-old tried to charge the stage, did in fact charge the stage, tried to apparently attack Donald Trump. He was stopped by Secret Service. And Mr. Trump is saying that he thinks Bernie Sanders' campaign is behind it because Sanders supporters are seen at the disruptions. And on and on it goes. This is not an election campaign like any other we've seen. And Donald Trump gets tremendous response. Yesterday I gave you 6 names on this show. I went through the 4 Republicans and the 2 Democrats, and I said to you, Trump, Rubio, Kasich, Cruz, Clinton, Sanders. Didn't screen anybody. Said choose your favorite and least favorite, and it was unanimous. Trump was most favorite, and Clinton was least favored. This is among our Canadian callers. So earlier in the week, Donald Trump also raised the ante and when he was talking to CNN. And one of the things that he told CNN was this: I think Islam hates us. And he was quizzed about that by Jake Tapper from CNN. And he said it again. I think Islam hates us, and we have to get to the bottom of things. Well, a little later on in the hour, I'm going to read you an email that no one else has heard in its entirety. And it's by a female supporter of Donald Trump. Was made available to me, was also made available to another radio program that decided not to air it. I will, because I think it has add some context to all of this. You'll hear from a Trump supporter in her words about why she supports Donald Trump. But I want to follow up on what Mr. Trump had to say about Islam. I think Islam hates us. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser is the founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. He's the author of Battle for the Soul of Islam, an American Muslim patriot's fight to save his faith. He's the past president of the Arizona Medical Association, and he was a lieutenant commander in the United States Navy. He's been on this program on many an occasion as well. Zuhdi, thank you for taking time. I appreciate it. What do you say in response to Donald Trump's statement, I think Islam hates us?
Well, thanks, Roy, for having me. And, first let me tell your listeners, for those who don't know me, I'm a conservative, so I'm not coming to this from sort of throwing stones from outside the party. But I will tell you that, first of all, just at face value, it's sort of a ridiculous statement. Islam is an idea. It's not a human being. He's sort of anthropomorphizing the idea of an entire faith of a quarter of a world's religion. And having said that, I know what he's talking about. Had he said Islamist, had he said jihadist, that's fine, yes. There are hundreds of millions that are part of not only a militant movement, but a political movement that you and I have spoken to. But I think, Rubio hit the nail on the head. Senator Rubio said, listen, I'm not worried about being politically correct. This is not about being politically correct, but we do need to be correct, And for Trump to make just another statement to add on to the long list where he said in the past he was going to shut down mosques, he want to stop immigration of all Muslims, all these things, it's demagoguery that intentionally sort of misses the mark in order to let people think he just says what other people won't say. But in fact, the platform of the presidency is one that should not only be used to tell people what they think they want to hear, which is demagoguery, but rather to educate the public and use it as a platform to go beyond. This is sort of the Frankenstein that Dr. Obama created, which is his inability, the president that we've had for 7 years, to deal with the issue of Islamism has sort of brought forth this Frankenstein that is overshooting and actually muzzling out the voices like mine that need to be heard that want to reform Islam.
Are you experiencing personally any backlash? Your family experiencing any backlash? Because you're a very patriotic American, but you're also Muslim.
Nothing specifically physically or anything, but I will tell you, it is obvious that somebody who's on the front of a lot of national media, social media, etc., the responses, and again, the candidates were on CNN this morning talking about how, listen, in a democracy we can disagree and we should be able to hash out ideas, but the response is if you disagree with Trump's followers or his statements that somehow you are hated, that you're an idiot and you're called names, the tenor of the discourse has gone from being an intellectual democracy to being one of a food fight. And, I hope that is not going to be where this campaign continues to be headed.
Mr. Trump cannot change his view, cannot change his statements. I mean, he's done it many times during the campaign, but the fundamentals that he's put in place for his campaign, he can't change them between now and the convention. So that's going to follow him all the way to the convention. If he receives the nomination, and most of the people I talk to who understand politics say he probably will, this is going to be part of the national election campaign in the United States. Are you worried that it's going to create a really significant division among Americans if it hasn't already?
I am. I'm worried that it's going to have us be rudderless, have us have a leader of our party who basically has no vision. What is a Trump doctrine? The Trump doctrine, every president's supposed to have a doctrine about the Middle East. You saw him Thursday night in the debates basically unable to criticize the Chinese government. He called the Tiananmen Square massacre a riot, basically taking the side of the government. He couldn't criticize Putin, a leader of a autocracy dictatorship that shares none of our values, unless he said he admired his strength. So this is an authoritarian candidate who the other candidates clearly have been trying to lay out how a vision of America is to defend those prisoners of conscience, to let the people of the Muslim and non-Muslim world know that we stand behind ideas of freedom and liberty and not just behind a personality. And unfortunately, we're seeing Mr. Trump sort of lead this evolution of a shift of our republic to being one led by a personality rather than one led by a president who happens to be a citizen of the United States of America. So I'm fearful, and I hope we come to our senses because Mr. Trump may obviously get beaten by Clinton because of the divisiveness. He has sort of a ceiling of his support. But I think as we deal with the most significant issue of the 21st century, which is radical Islam, if we don't have a leader that can thread the needle between saying that we're going to take sides within the House of Islam with reformers versus just lumping us all in as one. By the way, the candidate who has billion-dollar operations in Trump Dubai, Saudi royal family that owns swaths of his skyscrapers and rents out area there. So he's very hypocritical when it comes to, sort of labeling Islam as one, but that's just part of his bluster. And, I think we need to come to our senses, I hope and pray.
Zudi, can you stay with us a few minutes longer? What I'd like to do is read you that email from the Trump supporter. I'd like you to hear that.
Sure.
Okay. We'll come back with Dr. Zudi Jasser. He is former United States Navy Lieutenant Commander. He's also the founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, the author of Battle for the Soul of Islam, an American Muslim Patriot's Fight to Save His Faith, and he is a conservative thinker in the United States. You heard what he had to say about Donald Trump. More to come, and I'll read that email. Stay with us.
For more Roy Green,
visit roygreen.com for podcasts, blogs, highlights, and even a nice picture of Roy.
Back to the Roy Green Show on the Chorus Radio Network.
You can send your emails to Roy at roygreenshow.com. I'm on Twitter at The Roy Green Show. And somebody's tweeting and retweeting and tweeting and retweeting, and people are seeing it. They're retweeting support for Donald Trump on Twitter now. Look, I've given Donald Trump all the fairness that anybody can get in a broadcast. I've been very, very fair to Mr. Trump, as I'm trying to be fair to all of the candidates. I'm not a fan of the Democrats, and I will not be. I'm not going to support Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders. I told you before, I'm standing with, or at least my favorite is John Kasich. That's who I would vote for if I had a vote in the United States. But as soon as you say anything, or as soon as I say anything that is not 100% favorable to Donald Trump, I start to see the emails, and immediately it's angry emails from Canadians. Now, I get the fact that there are anti-establishment people on both sides of the border, and I'm no big fan of the establishment. If you listen to this program, you know that. I could skate past these topics and not do them. But there's such a visceral anger that immediately erupts. Dr. Zudi Jasser is with me, founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, and the author of battle for the soul of Islam, and American Muslim patriots fight to save his faith. He's the past president of the Arizona Medical Association, former lieutenant commander in the United States Navy. So I just want to read you this email, and I will not read it with any editorial comment. I'll just read it. This is an email that I received from someone I sort of know, and it's from someone he knows, and it's from an American woman who supports Donald Trump. So I could clean it up, but for context, I'm not going to. But I'd like you to tell me what you think when I'm finished reading it, okay?
Sure, absolutely.
All right. Starts out, it is a circus. In fact, it's a 3-ring circus. We have Donald Trump in the main ring. He's ready to whip this country back into shape. In the left ring, we have Bernie and Hillary. Bernie's spouting about all the free excrement. So I cleaned that up a little bit. He'll make sure everyone gets. Hillary is just spouting BS. Then we have Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and Jeb Bush in the right wing. We've been watching this circus too long. What a joke the current administration is. He has divided this country. We can't wait for the current clown in office to be gone. Seriously, our country's a mess. The politicians are not doing me any favors. I have personally felt the impact of the current Democratic government. My husband was a systems analyst. He was laid off 3 years ago. He cannot find a job. My son graduated from college 2 years ago. The only job he has is teaching karate. Our household income has been cut in half. I'm sick of paying taxes into a system that squanders my money. The Democrats do not have the same beliefs I have. I'm sick of the tide of illegal immigrants flooding our country, taking jobs, not speaking our language, and sucking benefits out of the system. Did you realize if you come here, you can get free housing, free cell phones, free health care, free food, and probably a host of other benefits I don't know of? This is my tax money funding them. I'm sick and tired of it. I'm tired of political correctness. I'm tired of the left shouting down religion. I believe in God, not Allah. Should our police officers be allowed to racially profile to find the criminals? Damn straight they should. I want someone in office that will bring the United States back to a country that we can be proud of. I need a change. I need a strong president. The Democrats are not going to help Main Street America. I need someone like Trump. I need someone to come in and kick ass. If Trump is only half the man Ronald Reagan was, the U.S. may be able to recover. I shudder of thinking of another Democrat in power. So there's the email. I cleaned up one word. Another program which had an option to run this decided not to. When I read that, Zudy, what do you hear?
Well, I hear actually a lot of the sentiment many of us as conservatives believe. We are angry, and want a candidate who can have ideals that are consistent and predictable. But Trump has not shown that he can answer any of that. I'm still trying to understand how an individual who switches his positions on a day-to-day basis can be somebody that we can put the future of our country in. They speak about somebody not being part of the establishment. From where I sit, he's part of the global establishment of dictators. There's no evidence from any of his vitriol that he's going to stand against Putin or the Iranian dictator or the monarchs of the Middle East who've created this mess of radical Islam. In fact, he's been in business with them and continues to be in business with them to the billions of Trump, Dubai, and others. So this is a man who maybe domestically might say he's against the establishment when, in fact, we're supposed to believe, according even now to Dr. Carson, who somewhat seems to have drank his Kool-Aid and says that, well, it doesn't matter that he called me a pedophile and all these things. I'm going to endorse him because he has two different Trumps. Well, how often am I told as a Muslim that I might be lying and doing taqiyya, saying one thing in public and doing another thing privately, when, in fact, when Trump says things that people are angry about, they say, well, he's going to be different as a president. He'll be calmer, etc. I don't see anything that shows he's actually going to advance the ideas of freedom and liberty abroad. It seems like he's just going to fall into cozying up to dictators, which is the mess of the 20th century that got us where we are today. So, yes, I'm angry too, but I see much more future in either Kasich, Rubio, or any of the other candidates besides this one, who really is more of a con artist from where I sit.
Let me ask you just one final question. I'll bring it back to the issue of religion, because Mr. Trump makes that a central theme of his presentation. When you hear in that email, I believe in God, not Allah, how do you respond to that? Because somebody's going to bring it up after I open the phone lines.
Well, I respond to that as, the apologetic from a Muslim is that we believe in the same God of Abraham, and we share the values of Judaism and Christianity. But listen, I understand that that's a tough thing to present to the American people as the hundreds of millions of Islamists that have this supremacist doctrine. All I can say is that the founding fathers of America, if they had said Christianity hates us, that would have been absurd. And yet they were fighting against folks in their own faith that wanted to control government and use the name of Christianity to create theocracies, and they fought and won that revolution. So in Islam, which is going through that same time in history, it's not about believing in a different God. It's about those who want to mix church and government, or mosque and government. And if we're going to defeat them, we need strategic language coming from a presidential candidate that can make that distinction.
Zuhdi, thank you for the time. You've always been really good about giving us time, and you've been a very consistent conservative voice in the United States. Thank you.
Anytime. Thank you, Roy. Appreciate it.
Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. His book again, Battle for the Soul of Islam, and American Muslim Patriots Fight to Save His Faith. All right. 888-225-8255. I could just avoid this. I could have just talked about the Trump rallies and the other issues that are making headlines now, the chaos and the violence, but I want to broad-base this more. 888-225-8255, 416-870-6400. My question is this. In your view, is Donald Trump what America needs or what America should shun? And when you hear that email that I read, do you hear an email that you can identify with or an email that you think you should challenge? And remember yesterday, I told you yesterday when I named the 4 GOP and 2 Democratic candidates for President of the United States, and I named them 1 through 6 just by their names, and I said, we'll not screen anybody, and we didn't. Tell me who's number 1 for you and who's last. Who do you least appreciate? It was unanimous. Donald Trump was chosen as the first and most appreciated, and Hillary Clinton the last and least appreciated. So 888-225-8255, 416-870-6400 is my number. Donald Trump, is he what America needs or what America should shun? And that email, when you hear the email, do you hear an email that you agree with or an email you want to challenge? Call me now.